The empty chair. The Galactic Council chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal, its domed ceiling displaying the swirling nebulae of the Andromeda sector. Representatives from 47 species sat in their assigned positions, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and telepathic hums that the universal translators converted into coherent discourse. Ambassador Krell of the Vorthan Empire adjusted his ceremonial robes as he called the monthly assembly to order. His 4 eyes scanned the chamber, noting the familiar faces and forms that had gathered for the past 2 centuries of peaceful cooperation. The aquatic delegation from Nereid floated in their environmental suits, while the crystalline beings from Silicon Prime reflected the chamber's lights in brilliant patterns, but one seat remained empty. Row 47, Section 12, the designated position for the Terran Republic. The simple metal chair designed for bipedal humanoids sat vacant as it had for the past 6 months. No one had questioned the absence initially. Earth was known for its unpredictable nature, after all. The Council recognizes the trade dispute between the mining consortium of Kepler 442 and the agricultural alliance of the Tau Ceti system, Krell announced, his voice carrying across the vast chamber through quantum resonance. As the representatives engaged in their usual debates about shipping routes and resource allocation, few noticed that the empty chair had become a permanent fixture. The humans, once active participants in galactic affairs, had simply stopped coming. No formal withdrawal, no diplomatic explanation, just silence. Commander Thane of the Rigel Defense Force sat in the military advisory section, his scaled fingers drumming against his data pad. Unlike the politicians around him, he found Earth's absence troubling. The humans had been reliable allies in the border conflicts with the Void Dwellers. Their tactical innovations had saved countless lives during the frontier wars. 3 rows behind him, Dr. Nala from the Scientific Collective shared similar concerns. Her tentacled form shifted uneasily as she recalled the human researchers who had contributed breakthrough technologies to the Council's archives. Their absence had left notable gaps in several ongoing projects. The session continued with its routine business. Trade agreements were ratified, territorial disputes were mediated, and research grants were approved. The Council had functioned smoothly for millennia, and the absence of one member, even one as unpredictable as humanity, seemed insignificant in the grand scheme of galactic governance. The Council recognizes the motion to expand mining operations in the Outer Rim, Krell announced, reading from his quantum tablet. Representative Zara from the Centauri Federation raised her crystal in hand. The motion is approved by a vote of 38-7 with 1 abstention. The empty chair cast no vote. As the assembly progressed, Ambassador Krell noticed something that made his stomach churn with unease. During the past 6 months, every major decision had passed with unusual ease. The humans, known for their thorough questioning and alternative perspectives, were no longer there to challenge proposals or suggest modifications. The realization struck him like a cold wind across the desert plains of his homeworld. Without Earth's representatives asking difficult questions, without their tendency to examine every detail and consider long-term consequences, the Council had become predictable. During a brief recess, Commander Thane approached the Vorthan. Ambassador. Sir, I must express my concerns about the Terran absence. Krell's 4 eyes focused on the military officer. The humans have always been irregular in their attendance. Perhaps they are dealing with internal affairs. With respect, sir, Earth has never missed 6 consecutive sessions. Even during their civil conflicts, they maintained diplomatic contact. Thane's voice carried the weight of experience. I fought alongside human forces. They don't simply disappear without reason. Dr. Nala joined the conversation, her translator converting her melodic tones into standard Galactic. I have attempted to contact the Terran Science Academy regarding our joint research projects. All communication channels appear to be inactive. The 3 representatives stood in the corridor, surrounded by the usual diplomatic chatter of the recess period. Other delegates passed by, engaged in their own conversations about trade routes and cultural exchanges. None seemed concerned about the prolonged absence of humanity. Perhaps Krell said slowly. It is time we investigated this matter more thoroughly. As the session resumed, the empty chair seemed to loom larger in the vast chamber. What had begun as a minor administrative note, the absence of one delegation, was starting to feel like something far more significant. The council continued its business, unaware that halfway across the galaxy, the truth behind Earth's silence was about to change the balance of power in ways they could never imagine. The empty chair held secrets that would soon shake the very foundations of galactic civilization. The Silent Sector. 3 days after the council session, Commander Thane stood on the bridge of the patrol vessel Stellar Dawn, watching the star charts with growing unease. The ship hummed quietly through hyperspace, carrying a small diplomatic mission toward the Sol system, humanity's home territory. Ambassador Krell had authorized the investigation after Dr. Nala presented disturbing evidence. All scientific communications from Earth had ceased exactly 6 months and 4 days ago. The last transmission had been routine, a data packet about agricultural improvements on the colony world of New Geneva. Sir, we're approaching the edge of Terran space, reported navigation. Officer Dex, his blue-scaled hands dancing across the control panel. Should I broadcast our diplomatic codes? Thane nodded, though something felt wrong. The space around them seemed too quiet, too empty. Usually the borders of any major civilization buzzed with activity. Merchant ships, patrol vessels, communication, satellites. Here, there was nothing. Dr. Nala emerged from the ship's laboratory, her tentacles curled with worry. I've been analyzing the sensor data from the past hour, the usual hyperspace traffic patterns that mark inhabited systems. They're not there. What do you mean? Krell asked, joining them on the bridge. Think of hyperspace like a river, she explained. When ships travel regularly between systems, they create currents, patterns that we can detect. The Sol system should show heavy traffic flows. Earth alone had over 50 billion inhabitants plus dozens of colony worlds. She activated the holographic display, showing a 3-dimensional map of local space. This is what the region looked like 6 months ago. The display showed bright streams of light connecting various star systems, like a glowing web of civilization. And this is what we're seeing now. The display changed and the web vanished. The Sol system appeared as a dark void in the pattern of galactic commerce. The bridge fell silent except for the ship's quiet humming. Finally, Thane spoke. How is that possible? Entire civilizations don't just stop. We'll know soon enough, Krell said, though his voice carried less certainty than his words. Hours passed as they traveled deeper into human territory. The silence grew more oppressive with each passing moment. They encountered no border patrols, no merchant vessels, no communication satellites. The space that had once been humanity's thriving domain now seemed as empty as the void between galaxies. Sir, Dex called out, his voice tight with concern. I'm detecting something ahead, a debris field. The main screen flickered to life, showing twisted metal scattered across thousands of kilometers. Thane felt his blood run cold as he recognized the wreckage. Pieces of human starships, space stations, and orbital facilities drifting like cosmic tombstones. By the 7 moons of Vorth, Krell whispered. What happened here? Dr. Nala's instruments worked frantically, analyzing the debris. The damage patterns are unusual. This wasn't caused by weapons fire or asteroid impacts. It looks like the structures simply came apart, as if they were abandoned and left to decay. But that would take years, Thane protested. This debris field suggests systematic destruction or abandonment of an entire solar system's infrastructure. They pressed onward, each new discovery more disturbing than the last. Abandoned mining stations orbited dead asteroids. Colonial outposts drifted, powerless in the darkness. Communication arrays floated silently, their signals long since faded. I'm not detecting any life signs, Dex reported. No heat signatures, no power sources, no artificial gravity fields. It's like everyone just left. As they approached Earth's solar system, the magnitude of the mystery became clear. Mars, once home to thriving colonies, showed no signs of habitation. The orbital shipyards around Jupiter sat empty and dark. Even the massive space elevators that had connected Earth to its orbital cities were gone, leaving only anchor points on the planet's surface. "This is impossible," Krell said, staring at the sensor readings. 50 billion people don't simply vanish. Where are the bodies? Where are the signs of struggle or disaster? Dr. Nala's analysis provided no answers, only more questions. The atmospheric readings from Earth show normal composition. The planet should be habitable, but I'm detecting no electromagnetic signatures, no city lights, no industrial activity. "Could they have evacuated?" Thane asked. "Some massive relocation. Program?" "To where?" Krell replied. "We monitor all major population movements through Council territory. An exodus of 50 billion beings would be impossible to hide." As the stellar dawn entered Earth's orbit, the truth began to dawn on them. Humanity hadn't simply left the galactic community. They had vanished entirely, leaving behind only empty worlds and drifting debris. The implications were staggering. If an entire civilization could disappear without a trace, what did that mean for the rest of the galaxy? The discovery the stellar dawn descended through Earth's atmosphere in complete silence. Below them, the planet that had once buzzed with the activity of 50 billion humans appeared as a pristine wilderness. Cities that should have stretched to the horizons were nowhere to be seen. Instead, vast forests and grasslands covered the continents like a green blanket. "This is impossible," Dr. Nala whispered, her tentacles trembling as she studied the readings. "According to our records, Earth's surface was 70% urbanized. Where are the cities?" Commander Thane piloted the ship toward what their star charts indicated should be the location of New York, one of Earth's largest metropolitan areas. Instead of towering structures and bustling streets, they found a peaceful valley dotted with wildflowers and crossed by a crystal-clear river. Topography matches, Navigation Officer Dex confirmed, comparing their scans to archived data. "This is definitely the right location, but there's no trace of human civilization." Ambassador Krell's four eyes widened as understanding began to dawn. "The debris fields we passed through, they weren't just abandoned infrastructure, they were the entire technological civilization of humanity. They landed in what should have been Times Square, but was now a meadow filled with butterflies and singing birds." As the landing party disembarked, they were struck by the planet's absolute tranquility. The air was clean, the water pure, and the ecosystem thriving in ways that seemed impossible for a world that had recently supported massive industrial civilization. Dr. Nala took atmospheric readings while Thane scanned for any signs of recent human presence. "The oxygen levels are perfect," she reported. "Better than perfect, actually. This planet's atmosphere is cleaner than most uninhabited worlds." "Sir," Dex called from near a grove of oak trees. "I found something, hidden among the roots of an ancient-looking tree was a small metallic object, no larger than Thane's fist. It pulsed with a soft blue light and hummed with energy that their instruments couldn't quite classify. It's some kind of technological device, Dr. Nala observed, running her scanners over the object. But the energy signature is unlike anything in our databases. It's not using fusion antimatter or any known power source. Krell approached cautiously. Could this be human technology? Something they developed after leaving the council? Before anyone could answer, the device projected a holographic display. The image showed a human figure, middle-aged, wearing simple clothes, with kind eyes and graying hair. When he spoke, the universal translator converted his words into perfect, galactic standard. "If you're watching this, it means someone has finally come looking for us," the human said. "My name is David Chen, and I was the last Secretary General of the United Earth Government. What you're seeing now is the result of a choice we made 6 months ago." The hologram continued, showing images of Earth as it had been, sprawling cities, busy spaceports, millions of people living their daily lives. Then the scenes changed, showing the same locations as they appeared now, transformed into natural landscapes. For 300 years, we participated in galactic civilization, David explained. We built cities, launched ships, and took our place among the stars. But we began to realize something that perhaps no other species has understood. The image shifted to show other worlds, the crystalline cities of Silicon Prime, the floating metropolises of Nereid, the vast industrial complexes of the Vorthon Empire. All magnificent in their own way, but all consuming vast resources and energy. We discovered that consciousness itself has power, David continued. Not the crude manipulation of matter and energy that we call technology, but the ability to reshape reality through focused will and understanding. We call it the Great Awakening. Dr. Nala's instruments went wild as she tried to comprehend what she was seeing. The energy readings from this planet, they're not coming from any devices, they're coming from the planet itself, as if the very ground is alive with some kind of coordinated intelligence. Over the past 50 years, more and more humans began to experience this awakening, the hologram explained. We realized that all our technology, all our cities and ships, were just elaborate distractions from what we could truly become, so we made a choice. The displays showed the systematic shutdown of human civilization, not destruction but transformation. Cities were deconstructed molecule by molecule, their materials returned to the Earth. Spaceships were dismantled and recycled. Orbital stations were taken apart with impossible precision. We gave up our machines and embraced something greater, David said. We became one with our world, learning to live in harmony with natural forces that most species never even recognize exist. Thane felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying that 50 billion humans just transcended physical existence? Theo, hologram seemed to look directly at him. We didn't disappear, Commander, we evolved. The Awakening. The hologram of David Chen smiled gently as if he could see the shock on their faces. I know this is difficult to understand. Your species measure progress by the complexity of your machines, the size of your cities, the reach of your empires, but we discovered something that changes everything. The projection shifted, showing scenes that defied explanation. Humans seemed to move through solid matter, reshape landscapes with their thoughts and communicate across vast distances without any technology. Yet they looked peaceful, content, more alive than any beings the diplomatic team had ever seen. The transition began slowly, David continued. First, a few individuals started experiencing what we called reality sensitivity. They could sense the underlying structure of space and time, feel the connections between all living things. We thought they were suffering from some kind of neurological condition. Dr. Nala's instruments detected massive energy fluctuations all around them, but the readings made no sense. According to her scanners, the entire planet was somehow generating power equivalent to a dozen suns, yet there were no visible sources. Then we realized it wasn't a disease. It was evolution. Consciousness itself was learning to interact directly with the quantum foundations of reality. We didn't need machines to manipulate matter and energy when we could do it directly with focused awareness. Ambassador Krell found his voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. The entire human species underwent this transformation? Not all at once, the hologram replied. It took 50 years for the awakening to spread. Some humans chose to remain in the old ways, and we respected that choice, but eventually even they began to see the possibilities. The display showed the final days of human technological civilization. There were no wars, no destruction, no chaos. Instead, they watched as humans systematically dismantled their own society with incredible precision and care. Every piece of metal was returned to the earth. Every artificial structure dissolved back into raw materials. We realized that all the problems facing galactic civilization, resource scarcity, territorial conflicts, environmental destruction, these exist only because species are trapped in patterns of thinking that see the universe as separate from themselves. Commander Thane stepped closer to the device. But your military technology, your starships, your defensive systems, the galaxy counted on human innovation during the border wars. David's expression grew sad. Yes, we were very good at creating tools for destruction, but we learned that the greatest strength isn't the ability to build bigger weapons, it's the wisdom to transcend the need for them entirely. Suddenly, the air around them began to shimmer. The team instinctively reached for their weapons, but found themselves unable to move. Not paralyzed, but gently held in place by some invisible force that felt warm and protective rather than threatening. "Do not fear," came a voice that seemed to emerge from the very ground beneath their feet. "We mean no harm." The landscape around them began to shift and change. The meadow transformed into a representation of the Galactic Council chamber, complete with every detail they remembered. But instead of the usual delegates in their seats, the chamber was filled with beings of pure light, recognizably human in form, but radiating an energy that made their universal translators struggle to process. "We are still here," the light beings communicated, their thoughts flowing directly into the minds of the visitors. "We never left. We simply evolved beyond the need for physical form as you understand it." Dr. Nala's scientific mind raced to comprehend what she was witnessing. "The energy signatures I've been detecting, it's you. 50 billion humans, existing as pure consciousness, but still connected to physical reality. Consciousness and matter are not separate things," came the reply. "They are different aspects of the same fundamental reality. Your species still see the universe as objects moving through empty space, but we have learned to perceive the underlying unity that connects all things." The light beings began to show them visions of what human society had become. Instead of cities, they had communities of awareness that could exist anywhere and everywhere simultaneously. Instead of spaceships, they could travel instantly by shifting their consciousness to different locations. Instead of consuming resources, they worked in harmony with natural systems to enhance life throughout the galaxy. "We withdrew from the Council not because we rejected galactic civilization," they explained, "but because we realized that our presence was limiting everyone else's growth. As long as we provided technological solutions to every problem, other species would never discover their own potential for transcendence." Krell felt overwhelmed by the implications. "You're saying that every species could develop these abilities?" "Every species already has these abilities," came the gentle response. "They simply haven't learned to recognize them yet. But consciousness is patient. It waits for each species to find its own path to awakening." The illusion of the council chamber began to fade, returning them to the peaceful meadow. The choice. The meadow returned to its natural state, but the presence of the evolved humans remained like a gentle warmth in the air. Commander Thane, Ambassador Krell, Dr. Nala, and Navigation Officer Deck stood in silence, trying to process the magnitude of what they had witnessed. "We understand this is overwhelming." The collective consciousness of humanity spoke, their words flowing like music through the minds of their guests. "For 3 centuries we participated in galactic civilization as you understand it. We built, we conquered, we consumed. But in doing so, we were only scratching the surface of what intelligent life can become." Dr. Nala's scientific training struggled against what her instruments were telling her. "The energy you're generating, according to our physics, it should be impossible. You're manipulating matter at the quantum level without any visible technology. You're Kiao." "Physics are not wrong," came the gentle reply. "They are simply incomplete. Consciousness is not separate from the physical universe. It is the fundamental force that shapes reality. Your species see consciousness as something that emerges from complex arrangements of matter, but the truth is the opposite. Matter emerges from consciousness." The holographic projection of David Chen reappeared, looking directly at Ambassador Krell. "We know why you came here. The Council is concerned about our absence. They fear that our disappearance might represent some threat to galactic stability." Krell nodded slowly. "The thought had occurred to us. When an entire civilization vanishes, it raises questions about security, about what forces might be at work in the galaxy." "The only force at work here is evolution itself," David replied. "Every species eventually reaches a crossroads. They can continue building bigger machines, conquering more worlds, consuming more resources, Or they can discover what lies beyond the need for such things. Around them, the landscape began to shift again, showing visions of other worlds throughout the galaxy. They saw the crystalline cities of Silicon Prime, where beings of living stone worked tirelessly to construct ever more elaborate structures. They witnessed the floating metropolises of Nereid, where aquatic creatures built vast underwater empires. They observed the industrial complexes of the Vorthan Empire, where entire planets had been converted into manufacturing centers. Each species believes that their path represents the pinnacle of achievement, the human consciousness explained. But all of these civilizations are trapped in the same pattern, the belief that external manipulation of the environment is the highest expression of intelligence. Commander Thane found himself thinking of all the military campaigns he had fought, all the weapon systems he had designed and deployed. Are you saying that everything we've built, everything we've achieved, is meaningless? Not meaningless, came the compassionate response. Necessary. These experiences teach important lessons about the nature of existence. But they are not the end goal, they are the beginning. Every tool you build, every world you explore, every problem you solve, brings you closer to understanding your true capabilities. Dr. Nala looked at her scientific instruments, suddenly seeing them in a new light. You're suggesting that all our technology is just training wheels? Exactly, David smiled. Very sophisticated training wheels that help consciousness learn to interact with physical reality. But eventually, every species must choose whether to remain dependent on external tools or to develop their inherent abilities. The visions around them expanded to show possible futures for galactic civilization. In one timeline, the various species continued their current paths, eventually exhausting their resources and falling into conflict over what remained. In another, they followed humanity's example, gradually transcending their dependence on technology and learning to work in harmony with the natural forces of the universe. The choice is always individual, the collective voice explained. We cannot force any species to evolve, nor would we want to, but we can serve as an example of what is possible. Ambassador Krell felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. What do we tell the Council? How do we explain what we've discovered here? Tell them the truth, David replied. Tell them that humanity has not disappeared. We have simply moved beyond the need for physical representation in galactic affairs. We are still here, still watching, still caring about the welfare of all conscious beings. But we can no longer participate in systems based on competition and consumption. The presence began to fade, but not before leaving them with one final message. The empty chair in the council chamber will remain empty until the council itself evolves beyond the need for such structures. When that day comes, we will be ready to participate in whatever new form of civilization emerges. As the stellar Dawn lifted off from Earth's surface, its crew carried with them the most important discovery in galactic history. Humanity had not vanished. They had transformed into something that challenged every assumption about the nature of intelligence, consciousness, and civilization itself. The galaxy would never be the same. And,